Custom fields are one of the things that I like best about ClickUp. It makes it really versatile and really customizable, not only for any law firm, but really for any project, any matter, and across industries. But they can also cause problems, especially when you're just getting started. Or if you're like me, you end up with multiple custom fields that are the same and you don't quite know which one is the one you want to use, or maybe your custom fields aren't showing up where you think they should. So that's a really, really common problem, especially when you're first beginning in ClickUp. So in this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tools that you can use to help you take better advantage of custom fields without going crazy. And in case you don't know who I am, I'm Catherine Porter. I'm a practicing attorney in California, and I have with over 20 years of experience. I am also a law firm consultant, helping law firms and law firm leaders streamline their operations so their firms operate smoothly, efficiently, and more profitably. And because I'm a lawyer, I have a couple of caveats. First of all, I call this series ClickUp for Lawyers, but I am not endorsed by or affiliated with ClickUp in any way. And second caveat, this is for educational purposes only, is not intended to create attorney-client relationship and is not meant as legal advice. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk custom fields. Okay, so one thing that I'm going to talk about a lot is custom fields and where they are in the ClickUp hierarchy. So I have a whole video on the ClickUp hierarchy, but really quick, I just want to run down some of the key features. Okay, so hopefully understand by now that ClickUp has a really set hierarchy, and the biggest space, the biggest container, I shouldn't say space, the biggest container in ClickUp is a workspace. And generally that is your company or your firm. And then underneath within that workspace, you can have spaces, and spaces might be by department, it might be by matter, it might be type of matter, however you want, however your ClickUp is organized. So the next thing down is a space, and you can see in this sample workspace I have, it's just a demo workspace, and there I have one space called space, and within that space I have folders and I have lists, and sometimes you can see that my under contacts folder I have clients, leads, and firm contacts, but I also have some lists that are just hanging out in the space by themselves. So lists don't have to be in folders, they can be on their own. So with that said, so that's just a quick rundown of the ClickUp hierarchy. Again, it's workspace, space, folders, lists, and of course tasks are on lists, and you roll back up. Okay, like I mentioned, custom fields are great. They really make ClickUp customizable and really useful for any type of use. So in this, I'm going to show you how to make a custom field, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can get tripped up and how to fix that. So first of all, I'm going to look at my contacts folder, and I'm going to say my client. I'm building up my clients list. So these are just all my clients, and one of the things I want to have on here is the client phone number. So I'm going to create a custom field. This is add a column here, and I can so I'm going to make it a new custom field, and it gives me the choices of the types of custom fields I can use. I'm going to use phone number, and I'm just going to call this phone number. And it's going to be a phone number, and add the column. So now I have a phone number for my client Daisy here. And I'm just going to add a couple of fake clients here, and we'll say Sid Smith, Carrie Jones. Okay. So I've got two clients here, and I want to put their phone numbers in here, so I'm just going to make up a couple of phone numbers. 71, yeah, so. And let's see, this one will be, all right, so now I've got some phone numbers on my client list. Now I'm going to look at my leads list, or my potential clients, and I'm going to say, okay, well, one of the things I want to capture here are phone numbers. So I might go, being my new to ClickUp self, I would say, okay, and this is one thing like I said, I did not really understand. So I would just be like, oh, I need a phone number for this field on this list. So I'm going to add a new field, a new column, and I'm going to scroll again down to the phone number. And this time I'm just going to call it phone. And I'm going to add that column. And I can populate that with a couple of numbers, just made up numbers. It doesn't like that one. Okay, so now I've got some phone numbers for the client leads list. And now I'm going to go to my firm contacts list, and I'm building out this. And you know what? I want to have a phone number here as well. So I'm going to add a column. Say it's a new column. Like I didn't even notice that there's new and there's show and hide. So let's just say new, and I'm giving you a little spoiler on what might help you figure this out and fix this. So now I'm going to call this the phone number, like that. So we just know we have now add column. Okay, so I've got this column for phone numbers here. Now, what happens if I take one of my leads and let's see, Pam Duncan here, she's going to become a client. So I'm going to move, notice her phone number, I've got this 917 number there. I'm just going to drag and drop her onto my clients list. And it's like, get this warning, right? Different custom fields. So that's another tip, another hint of what you might do differently. But for purposes of this demonstration, saying one custom field is missing in the new location, the phone number is missing. So I can either move it and add that phone number field to the list, or I could just do nothing. But let me show you what happens either way. So this time I'm going to say do nothing. And you're going to see, now I go back to my clients list, and there's Pamela Duncan, but look, there's no phone number for her because it's not the same phone field. It's, even though in our minds, maybe it's the same. At least that was the way my mind was working when I first started building out ClickUp. So let me go back to my firm and my leads list here. And this time I'm going to move Greg over to client. And now I'm going to say, and I get that same warning. Look, there's a new custom field. This phone number, it's not the same custom field. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want to move that one over. So I'm going to add that field so it's also on my clients list. But then let's go to clients. And okay, so it's not showing up because I haven't added it as a visual column. But it is available here. So now I can click to this add column. Again, now it's where that distinction comes between show and hide and new field. So instead of new column, I'm going to show and hide, because views, you can always choose what fields you can see in any particular view. So the content exists within the task, that information, data is there, and it's just how we're looking at it. So I want to see that column. So I'm going to say show hide, and look, I've got the phone numbers already showing, but I also want to show the phone here, the one that I made. Okay, and so now I've got two phone number columns, right? I've got the phone number that came with the clients list, and then I have the phone field that I created on my leads list. And so I have two different phone numbers, and it gets really, really messy. And then let's say, you want to add, have it. So now you've got these two different phone number custom fields that are basically in the same place. So how do you fix that? Like, what's the best practice? Well, you don't want to end up with multiple custom fields in the same list that are the same things, like what just happened here. So you can do a couple of things. One thing is to set that custom field at the folder level, or the next highest level. So if you've got it as folders, and you want to have it on the space, but just remember, if you do that, it will create that custom field on every task in that list, in that space or folder. So it's not always the best idea, and I'll show you why in a minute. But first, let me just go ahead and carry this through. Now I'm going to say, you know what? I want to add this at the folder level, because I know everybody in my contacts list is on any kind of contact list is going to have a phone number, right? So I can go ahead and I can say, so you can do it from this view here where it's showing you all of your lists. You're in the folder. I'm looking at the folder. You can see my folders highlighted here, and I'm looking at everything in that folder. So I can create a new field here, add a column, or I can also go to the ellipsis here next to my folder name, folder settings, go to this little button here, folder settings, custom fields. So I'm gonna click on that, and it's like, here are the custom fields that are already showing, okay? Now I can add a new custom field. But again, that's going to create issues. We're going to have new custom fields called the same thing, and some of them will be at the folder level, some will be at the list level, and it's just going to get even messier. So the best practice is always to use an existing field if one exists. And we know, because we just created them, that there are some phone number custom fields. So I am going to say use an existing list. I have only created custom fields on this demo account for phone numbers. So I'm going to say I want to use this one, this phone number, the one that's spelled out phone number. And so I'm going to make that a custom field for any task in this list, in this folder. So any list on this folder is going to have this custom field. And now it is a folder custom field. All right, so we are good there. Now what happens is we can go in and we can view. So clients, we already have them with the two different ones. So we could, now, of course, you have to do a little bit of cleanup here. So you would have to actually manually change, put this phone number on this phone number here into this field here. So it's always better if you can avoid the problem when you're setting it up at the outset so that you don't have this issue. But if you're like me, you may have to do some manual input to so that you can clean up your custom fields. But I just want to show you what happens. Okay, when I add it at the folder level, that means, like, if I go into Greg Smith here, you can see I've got empty fields that are also the folder list, and one of them is phone number. So imagine if you have, well, don't imagine, let me explain. Okay, so to explain, I want to show you what happens when you get carried away and you put too many custom fields at too high of a level. So here I am back on my folder, my contacts, and I'm going to say, I'm going to add a custom fields. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to put things at the folder list so that I don't lose, so that I can move them around and everything will be available on every list. Well, let me show you what happens if you get a little carried away, and you just add some new custom fields. Let's add, and so I'm going to add that column. Let's see, maybe we want to add a date, where the date became client. Maybe I want a text field. All right, so now I've got all these, I've added some custom fields, but some of them are really not going to apply, right? For example, we want to go like firm contacts. Well, now I've got, let's open up Posey here. And you can see with Posey, I've got 11 empty fields. So there's her phone number. That's great. I want that one there. But now I've also got her address. Okay, maybe that does belong on my general firm contacts list. Company name, that makes sense. Some contact notes. Maybe that's okay. Date of birth. Well, I probably don't need to know her date of birth if she's opposing counsel or the deposition service or something like that. So, it doesn't really apply. And date became a client, again, might not apply to somebody that's just a regular firm contact. Here's what I added earlier, favorite color. Maybe, again, I don't care about that. Friendliness, the point is you're going to get a lot of different fields that are available if you set them at the folder level, and they might not apply to any particular list. So then you're going to end up with tasks with all these custom fields that you don't really need. So that's the flip side of putting custom fields at the folder, and you can imagine it would be even a bigger issue if you had it at the space level, so that then you might have contacts in a folder, and then maybe you have like firm operations in another folder, and you've got, phone numbers and date of birth and things like that for general business operations. It doesn't make sense. So you do want to be mindful and use the ClickUp hierarchy, set it up at the highest level that makes sense and doesn't cause problems later on. And another way to avoid the problem of having multiple custom fields that are really the same information, like a phone number, is when you want to use add that custom field to a view or to a different list, you want to make sure you choose use an existing field, just like we did at the folder level. So at the list level, it looks like this. Here I am in my firm contacts. I want to add a column. Now remember, you can either show or hide if it already exists on that list, either because it's already in the folder space, in the folder or at the space level, or it's just a different view and you just want to see that piece on this view. But if you truly need to add something to this list, you want to always check for a field in the library. Use a field from library, which is the same as use an existing field that we saw before. So I'm going to use a field in the library. Again, I only have phone numbers, so I'm just going to click on that and I'm going to say use this field now. Of course, it's not the greatest example because I've got this phone number and phone for, for this list. But you get the idea that you want to always check and see if you have that in your library. Use that first. And sometimes I'll put emojis or symbols next to the ones that I know so I can kind of keep track of which ones are which. Or you could use a number like phone 1, phone 2, or alt phone, things like that, so that you kind of know, okay, well, yeah, maybe I do want to have 2 phone numbers on this firm contact list because maybe I want to have, the person's direct line, but also their cell phone line if I know it. And so I want to distinguish those. So maybe call one cell phone and one office direct or whatever it is like that. So that will help you clean up your custom fields and make sure you're not going to end up like me with all these custom fields at all these different levels that you don't really need, just a lot of clutter and making a lot of work if you want to switch it over so that when you do clean it up, you don't have to manually re-enter information. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is how you can use relationships and roll-up fields to put information on another list using to look into a custom field from one list and bring that information into another list without creating a whole new custom field. So for example, let's say we have a client and our client is a corporate client and it's Big Co. Okay, now I want to, but I want to know the contact information. So what's the phone number for Big Co? Well, Big Co doesn't have a phone number, so they might have a general receptionist line type of thing. But let's say we want to have our firm contact here. So we're going to make a new column and it's going to be a relationship. And I'm going to say, company contact. And I'm going to say that's from my firm contacts list. And I'm going to add that column. And then it's going to let me pick who that firm contact is, who the company contact is for the client Big Co. So I'm going to make it Charlotte here. And then let's say I want to know, well, what's the phone number for that company contact? So then I'm going to add a column, and this time I'm going to use a roll-up. So the first one is a relationship. It's saying, hey, this client name, Big Co, is related to this particular firm contact named Charlotte. And so I want to know what Charlotte's phone number is. So I don't have to add, I could add a custom field, client or contact's phone number, and then re-enter that information. But I can also use a roll-up field so I pull that information right in. So this time, because I've already set that relationship, I can simply create a roll-up field. And it's going to be the contact phone. It's going to be related to company contact. And because that's the related field that I created. And I want the field that rolls up, I want it to be the phone number. Okay, so I'm going to create, and there is Charlotte's phone number right there rolled up onto this list. So I didn't have to add another phone custom field. I was able to just pull it in because I made that relationship. So that's another way to kind of get around the problem of having so many custom fields that all are the same or very, very similar. Fine. I just wanted to wrap up by saying the key, I think, to using custom fields is understanding where you are in the hierarchy and where does it make sense to use that custom field. And as an extra bonus tip, automations are the same thing. And this was something that I learned through trial and error too, that you really need to be mindful of where in the hierarchy you're creating that automation. So if you have automations that aren't triggering the way you think they should be triggering or triggering too much, it might be in the hierarchy, just like the custom field issues can arise if you're not mindful of where you are in that ClickUp hierarchy. All right, well, thank you. And if you need some help, if you'd like some help getting ClickUp up and running in your firm, please see the link in the description to book a discovery call with me. And meanwhile, thanks for watching.